Tattooing, it's blood, it's pain, it's permanence. You can't just call it in. Hey guys, welcome to the show today. I'm Horisumi, as you know. I'm gonna change things up a little bit today and do a little bit less philosophical conversating about tattooing and talk a little bit about actual tattoos that inspired me and that I think are great tattoos. When I first started tattooing 30 years ago, there wasn't a lot of imagery available like there is today. There was no, social media and Instagram and all that shit, right? So we didn't have a lot to look at. So every now and then you'd see some photos, or somebody would have a photo book from Japan, or there might be a magazine with like one picture of an epic bodysuit in it. And you just look over it and pore over it and analyze it. And that's the kind of stuff that really inspired me to like Japanese tattooing, and especially the real traditional stuff. And I guess one of the biggest influences on me, and someone who amongst real tattooers and purist tattooers look at as one of the high achievers of traditional Japanese tattooing, would be Horiyoshi II. And he was a very different kind of character than your most, well-known tattooers. That his father was Horiyoshi I, and he would only teach Horiyoshi II how to tattoo if he himself didn't get any tattoos, right? Strange. So Horiyoshi II tattooed, and he was more of an artist. He was more of a painterly type tattooer at the time. And so his work was absolutely epic compared to other stuff that was being done artistically. And he kept his prices lower than the average tattooer as well, so that he could do these big prolific works and have a little more creative control over what he was doing. So he's probably one of the guys that really influenced me the most. And then an artist that was influenced by him, Hori Toshi I, also became a massive influence of mine. So I'll show you some imagery here. You can see this one. This is a full back piece of Susanoo no Mikoto, which is one of the deities of Japan. And you can just see how it's just composed so perfectly. It's a giant head, really readable face. The body takes up the back. I mean, it's really, it just has a lot of power to it. This particular deity was known for slaying a giant serpent, and that's part of how his ascension to power in the Japanese sort of pantheon. And so he's often depicted with a dragon or a serpent, and he's holding a sword, right? So you can see here the piece takes up most of the back, but in that corner there's the awesome wind swirl, real powerful storm clouds, and some maple leaves in there. And this kind of work really speaks to me. This is another of his pieces here, where this particular warrior is slaying a giant fish. Right? Awesome. Really powerful. The background encapsulates the composition. There's not too much background. There's not too little background. It's just a really big striking piece. And you can see all the pattern work and the robes and stuff. And this stuff would have all been done, I believe, by machine outlining. It would have been free-handed on. And the color, I've seen images of him doing machine work, and I've seen images of him doing tabori. So it's hard to say. I don't know how it was completed. Let's see what else we got here. This is a very famous design of a dragon back piece. A lot of people use this imagery, have recreated this imagery, and it's just super powerful and striking. All right. This is Fudumio's sword with the dragon around it. Something a little bit out of the ordinary here. So we have a witch or a sorceress with the spider webs coming out as the background. He was probably one of the first people to do something like this. I've seen it recreated since. But he was breaking all the barriers back in the time, doing stuff like this comparative to what the the standard was in Japanese tattooing. Really dense backgrounds, really unique compositions, really powerful and beautiful stuff. Let's see what else we got here. Now, I will say that Horiyoshi II, he's got a couple of books out that I have, and prolific bodysuits, prolific work, very detailed, lots of attention to little things like fabric patterns and the faces and the feet. Really beautiful stuff and really striking. I mean, a lot of the old Japanese stuff, while powerful and striking, was a little more simplistic and maybe not as dense, right? Whereas Horiyoshi II's work was very, very dense. Now, Hori Toshi I, who carries on what I think is that style with the dense backgrounds. You can see here, here's a front, right? Now, Hori Toshi I family, they're known for their whites and their flowers. You can see in the flowers, the little tips of the white. Now, this was all done machine outline, tabori, everything else. And you can just see how dense and perfect that is. This is the kind of work that really inspired me with a lot of my work. My background's got a little more open over time, but I'm trying to bring them back a little bit now. And like I said in previous videos, you know, when you get influenced by a lot of different artists and a lot of different work, it changes your work, right? Even if you're just looking at it. That's why these days I try not to look too much at other artists' work, because I don't want to be influenced. I want to stick to my style and my aesthetic, and I want to sort of stay true to what I want to do. So it's hard because I like to look at other people's work and I like to explore what's going on out there, but I also don't want to start adding that stuff into my work. And it's hard, you know. It's like if you're a chef and you're trying all sorts of different foods, you might try a spice or, you know, flavor profile that you wouldn't normally use, and it, you know, it maybe changes the course of what you're trying to do, right? So this ethic, this aesthetic is what I truly love. There's another piece there. Super powerful, super dark, really strong backgrounds. And like I say time and time again, the background is what makes the tattoo. I took my portfolio to Hori Toshi probably back in 2006, maybe 2004. I went to Japan, I got tattooed by him. And I just got a little tattoo on my leg from him. I showed him my book. And the only thing he was interested in was my backgrounds. He didn't give a shit about the main motifs, whatever, a dragon's a dragon, you know. But if the backgrounds are right, that's what makes a Japanese tattoo look good and correct, right? That's the most important thing. So if you're either an artist or an aspiring, if you're a client, you want a bodysuit, look at your artist backgrounds, because that's really what makes or breaks a good Japanese tattoo. Let's see what... Here's another Hori Toshi I piece. You can see with the flowers, the white just stands out. The backgrounds are solid and dark. There's no rushing, there's no cutting corners. It's just solid, solid tattooing. The main composition takes up the whole canvas, right? And then the flowers are just the accompaniments, maybe filling in the gaps and just holding the whole thing together. Very striking. And here we have a front, Horiyoshi I, all right? Beautiful flowers, nice chest plates. And this is the way I like to do my chest plates. I might bring mine a little bit closer, but that one, above the nipple, super dense, good looking work. Really solid, nice, solid work. Let's see what else we got here. It's another front piece here. You can see the nice Munawari down the middle. Really cohesive structure. Looks like it's meant to be there. Nice straight lines. And again, you know, you see the dragons, but you're really drawn in by the background, because that seems to be what is the most important thing when you look at these, right? You're not looking at the dragon, you're looking at the background. You're looking at the lines and the perfection. And that's why the background is so important. You know, so this kind of work is what really drew me in and what I really try to recreate in my work. And you see a lot of people doing Japanese now, and you know, there's iterations and evolutions of Japanese tattooing. There's some great stuff out there, but I mean, for me, I like to look at the old stuff. Like if you're gonna draw a rose, right? If you're gonna draw a rose, you don't look at a drawing of a rose or like the 10 iterations from someone who looked at an actual. I like to look at the actual rose, and for me, this is the epitome of traditional Japanese tattooing. So I like to look at this stuff, and then I can do my own style, my own sort of take on it, but it's based on something super rooted in tradition and power, right? And this is the stuff, and you see this stuff in real life, and it's solid as 10. I've seen this stuff that's 20, 30 years old in Japan, healed 20, 30, done 20, 30 years ago, and it looks as solid as it was done last year. Super good stuff, super dense stuff. Now, we couldn't really talk about traditional Japanese tattooing without talking about Horiyoshi III as well. So you'll see here, this is a back piece from Horiyoshi III. Now this would be probably at the height of his career. So he started off doing really more traditional stuff along the lines of what we've already seen, maybe with a bit of a bigger background. And Horiyoshi III went off on his own and created his own style of traditional Japanese. Very large motifs, lots of interswirling layered backgrounds, sometimes a little bit less of a harsh background, a little less dark and a little more soft. So you'll see this dragon here where the dragon head takes up pretty much the whole upper back, and then it goes in and out of the waves, and there's a claw here and a claw there, and there's lots of overlay where the water's going over the body. So this was a real unique style that he developed at the time that is, you know, copied endlessly today. But he was the pioneer of this style, and also why, you know, along with Horiyoshi II, along with Hori Toshi I, is considered one of the most prolific Japanese tattooers. Now we'll see here, here's a Horiyoshi III front. Again, nice wide Munawari, big motifs on the side, a little less background, and comparative to the other tattooing that we've looked at already, the background looks a little less dark and a little less harsh, and the whole composition is a little bit softer and more colorful, but very readable. You can see those two dragons coming off onto the chest. So this is obviously done as, it looks like he had two half sleeves first, and then got sleeve extensions, and then probably got the back piece, and then got the rib panels down onto the thighs. So you can see how the size of the dragon heads, they were done as chest plates first, and then everything was made bigger afterwards. And then this tiger back piece is one of my favorite tiger back pieces going. Giant tiger, takes up the whole back, the claw into the buttock, right? It's not the best photo, but you can sort of see there's a cherry blossom storm up there. Tiger sitting on the rocks. Super powerful and colorful. Horiyoshi spent a lot of time making his main motifs, lots of different gradients of color, whereas a lot of traditional Japanese stuff might have been just one solid block of color or maybe two colors. Horiyoshi III was more painterly in the way he did things, similar to Horiyoshi II, and made things a little more, lack of a better word, three-dimensional, a little more shape to it. So you can see. So for me, these three artists are probably the biggest influence on what I do, what I continue to do. And this is the sort of direction that I've always gone in. I go less in the Horiyoshi III direction because I like a darker background myself, and you can see that in my work. And I've experimented with different aesthetics myself. I've done some with a bit of a wider background, more of a tight background. When I started freehanding, my work got a lot bigger and the backgrounds got a little more pushed out. But I'm trying to bring that all back now and find the happy medium, if you will, right? So when you're tattooing, I mean, like I talked about in another video, keeping motivation and trying to keep things fresh and trying to stay creative is one of the more difficult things to do when you've been tattooing for a long time, or doing any artistic pursuit for a long time, is to not become a automaton and just go through the motions. It's to keep it fresh and keep keep it interesting for me to do and keep my work interesting as well. I don't want to just reproduce the same shit over and over and over again. I want to make every piece better than the last piece while maintaining my aesthetic, but also growing as an artist. So, it is a struggle. And again, this is why I try to keep on that one path, because I don't want my work. I know some artists and their portfolios are all over the place. They might have a back piece that looks like this, and then another back piece that looks totally different, another back piece that looks totally different to those other two. And while that's great for the individual, I think as an artist, you want your body of work to have a specific feel to it, so it's recognizable. And one of the things I'm told a lot by my clients is that my work is recognizable. People see it on the street, like, oh, that's a Horisumi piece. They can tell, and I like that. And I think that's the mark of going in the right direction. So, if you're an artist, something to aspire to and to work at, and to stay true to your own vision, I think painting and drawing are super important. I definitely don't do enough of it. I'm going to try and do more. It's just a time thing at the moment. And if you're a client and you're interested in tattooing, I think it's really important, especially with big work. I mean, it's not like back in the old days. If you were in Japan, you just get tattooed by, there might be 3 or 4 guys in your neighborhood, and you'd have 3 or 4 to pick from, and you'd just choose a style that you like. But now, with international travel, the internet, and books, and all this stuff, you really have it's a buyer's market. You can really choose what works for you and what look you want to go with. If a lot of, I think, Japanese a lot of tattooing in general, people are trying to stand out. So they're doing shit differently. They're big flashy stuff and lots of crazy compositions. The thing with that though is, does it last the test of time? Is it a classic and timeless look that you'll be happy with for the rest of your life? Because unlike fashion, unlike t-shirts and jackets and hairstyles and all this stuff, once this shit's on you, it's there forever. I mean, you can think of some of the shirts that we might have worn in the 90s or the early 2000s, like you think of those Affliction t-shirts, or the tap out shirts, or shirts with crazy art on them. Yeah, they look cool and they're flashy, but fuck, you don't want to wear that all the time, right? And you don't want that as the only t-shirt you have. And I look at tattooing the same way. It can't be fashionable. It's got to be something that's classic and timeless, and that will grow old with you and grow with you, right? So that when you're 45 or 50 or 60 and you take your shirt off, and your kids see your shirt, and your grandkids see your shirt, is it going to be something cool that you're proud of? You know what I mean? So stuff to take into consideration when choosing your bodysuit, choosing your back piece, choosing your artist. All right, guys, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and let me know what you think, as always, in the DMs and the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.